What if I told you that everything you want in life is already waiting for you? The success you dream about, the confidence you wish you had, the freedom you keep chasing, the life that feels just out of reach. It's all there. But here's the part nobody wants to hear. It's locked behind a door. And that door doesn't open with luck or talent or the right connections. It opens with one thing, and one thing only. Work. Real, painful, unglamorous. Nobody's watching. Do it anyway. Work. Today's story is going to prove that to you. Not with empty promises, but with the real journey of a young man who had absolutely nothing and built everything.
Welcome back, everyone. And if this is your first time here, welcome to The Leader's Voice. This is the channel where real stories meet real lessons. Every week, we bring you one powerful story about courage, discipline, resilience, and the kind of mindset that separates people who succeed from people who simply survive. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now because you don't want to miss what's coming every single week. And if you're already part of this family, welcome back. I'm glad you're here.
Today's story is called Nothing is Free. And I want you to really sit with that title for a moment before we begin. Nothing is free. Not the life you want, not the respect you wish people gave you, not the success you see other people living, not the peace of mind you've been searching for. Nothing. Today, we follow a young man named Leo, a 20-year-old with enormous dreams, an empty wallet, and a family depending on him. We're going to watch him start from the very bottom, with no money, no skills, no shortcuts, and build something real. But this isn't just Leo's story. This is your story too. Because somewhere in Leo's journey, you're going to see yourself. You're going to recognize your own fears, your own excuses, your own moments of wanting to give up. And by the end, I hope you make a decision to stop waiting, stop delaying, stop telling yourself that someday things will magically get better. Here's what you'll take away from today's story. First, why dreams are not free and what that actually means for your life right now. Second, how to start building something from absolutely nothing. Third, what to do when everything you've worked for is suddenly threatened. And fourth, how to turn your biggest setback into your greatest comeback. So, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and let's begin.
What if I told you that the most successful people you admire, the ones you follow, the ones you wish you could be, most of them started with nothing. No money, no guidance, no safety net. Just a dream and the refusal to let it die. This is the story of one of those people. His name was Leo. Leo was 20 years old, living in a small, quiet town surrounded by mountains, the kind of place where nothing much ever happened, and most people were perfectly okay with that. But Leo wasn't okay with it. He had enormous dreams. He wanted to own a chain of restaurants, build something from nothing, and become the kind of man his family could point to and say, "That's our Leo. He did it." But here's the reality Leo woke up to every single morning. His father, Mark, came home every night with grease on his hands and exhaustion in his eyes.
His mother, Claire, cleaned other people's houses so her own family could survive. And his little sister, Sophie, just 10 years old, looked up at Leo like he was her hero. He couldn't afford to fail. He couldn't afford to give up. But most days, he couldn't even afford to dream.
One cold evening, Leo sat outside his small house, staring up at the stars. The kind of night where everything feels too big and you feel too small. He whispered to himself, I want to give my family a better life. But how do I even start when we barely have enough to survive? The next morning, he went to his father. He told him everything. The dreams, the fear, the confusion. Mark put down his tools, looked at his son, and said something Leo would never forget. Leo, dreams are not free. If you want something, you have to fight for it. Start with what you have, even if it's small. That was it. No money handed over, no connections offered, no shortcuts given. Just the truth. Dreams are not free. Leo carried those words home that night and couldn't sleep. His mind kept spinning. He kept asking himself, what do I have? What can I do right now with nothing? And then it hit him. He noticed something so simple, it was almost embarrassing that nobody had acted on it before. The people in his town loved fresh bread, but the nearest bakery was miles away. People either drove far or went without. That was the gap. That was his door. But there was one problem. Leo had no money to buy bread up front and no way to get any. So he did something that required more courage than most people will ever understand. He walked miles, alone, to meet the bakery owner, Mr. Anderson, a grumpy, suspicious old man who trusted nobody. Leo stood in front of him, looked him directly in the eye, and said, Mr. Anderson, I want to sell your bread in my town, but I don't have money to buy it up front. Give me 1 week. I will sell every loaf, return every penny you're owed, and keep only a small profit. Mr. Anderson stared at him for a long, heavy moment. Why should I trust you, young man? Leo didn't blink. He said, because I am determined, and I will work hard to prove myself. There was a long silence. Then Mr. Anderson said, all right, 1 week, but if you fail to pay me back, don't ever come back here again. Leo was thrilled. But thrilled doesn't mean it was easy. The next morning, he woke up before the sun. He walked miles, carrying heavy bread on his back. He set up a small stand near the park, and he greeted every single person who passed by. Fresh bread, warm and delicious. At first, people walked right past him. They didn't know him. They didn't trust him. Why would they stop? But Leo didn't panic. He offered free samples, small pieces, just a taste. And slowly, one by one, they stopped. By the end of that first day, every single loaf was sold. That evening, Leo walked back to Mr. Anderson and placed every penny on the counter. The old man looked down at the money, then looked up at Leo, and nodded slowly. You kept your word. Come back tomorrow. 3 words. Come back tomorrow. But to Leo, those 3 words meant everything. For 2 months, Leo woke up at 4 in the morning every single day. He walked miles, he carried bread, he smiled even when he was exhausted.
He kept every single promise he made. And slowly, his savings grew. Then one day, a customer looked at him and said, "Why don't you bake your own bread? You're great at selling, but if you bake it yourself, you'll keep all the profit." The idea lit something up inside Leo, but it also terrified him. He had never baked a single thing in his life. This was the moment where Leo truly understood what his father meant. Nothing is free. Not success, not knowledge, not growth. If you want to move forward, you have to be willing to learn what you don't know, do what makes you uncomfortable, and risk looking foolish in order to become something greater. So, Leo went back to Mr. Anderson. After paying him one morning, he looked the old man in the eye and said, "Mr. Anderson, will you teach me how to bake?" The old man frowned immediately. "Why should I teach you? If you bake your own bread, you won't buy from me anymore. That's bad for my business." Leo paused, then said quietly, "You're right, but I will never forget the man who gave me my first chance. If I succeed, I will make sure to help your bakery too." Mr. Anderson was silent for a long time. Then he said, "Fine, but baking isn't easy. It takes time, patience, and real hard work. If you're ready for that, I'll teach you." Leo looked at him and said, "I'm ready."
The lessons began at 3 in the morning. Before the sun came up, before the town was even awake, Leo was standing in that bakery, learning, failing, trying again. His hands ached from kneading dough. His bread came out too hard, then too soft, batch after batch, failure after failure. One morning, after ruining yet another batch, Leo sat down on the bakery floor, head in his hands, and whispered to himself, "Maybe I'm not good enough for this. Maybe I should just give up." And then he heard his father's voice in his head. "Dreams are not free." He stood up. The next morning, he came back. And the morning after that. And the morning after that. 2 weeks later, Mr. Anderson handed Leo a loaf, looked at it carefully, and said quietly, "This is perfect, Leo. You're ready." Leo rented a small oven. He started baking at home. His family gathered around him. Sophie packing bread with tiny, careful hands. His mother bringing him tea while he worked late into the night. For the first time in a long time, the house felt full of something more than just survival. It felt full of hope. Leo's products grew. Bread became cookies, cookies became pastries. Word spread across the town. People started saying, "Leo's bread tastes better than anything we've ever had." But success never lets you get too comfortable. One day, a new bakery opened in town. His name was Eric. Young, confident, big fancy shop, colorful signs, beautiful cake decorations. People were curious. They started buying from Eric instead. Leo watched his sales drop. He felt the fear creeping in, cold and heavy. But here's what Leo did, and this is the part I really need you to hear. He didn't panic. He didn't quit. He didn't sit in the corner feeling sorry for himself. He walked up to his own customers and asked them honestly, "What do you like about Eric's Bakery? What can I do better?" Some said the shop looked cleaner. Some said the cakes had more beautiful designs. So Leo listened. He used his savings,
improved his presentation, learned cake decorating by watching free videos, and started offering new samples. Slowly, his customers came back. One elderly woman stopped at his stand one evening and looked at him with kind, tired eyes. She said, "I've seen many young men give up when times get hard, but you didn't. That's why we trust you." Months passed. Leo saved enough to open his own small shop. He called it Leo's Fresh Bakes. It wasn't the biggest shop in town, but it was warm. It was welcoming. And every morning, Leo opened those doors with a smile and fresh bread that he made himself with his own 2 hands from nothing. But life wasn't done testing him yet.
One stormy night, as Leo was closing up, he smelled smoke. He rushed inside and found a fire near the oven. He grabbed water, fought the flames, and stopped it, but not before much of his equipment was destroyed. The next morning, the whole town heard. People gathered outside. Some said, "Oh no, what will Leo do now?" Others whispered, "Maybe this is the end for him." Leo stood outside the damaged shop. His hands were shaking. His eyes were tired. But he looked at the crowd and said, "This is just a challenge. I've faced struggles before, and I will face this too. I won't give up." He went back to Mr. Anderson, now retired, sitting quietly at home, and asked for advice. The old man smiled slowly and said, "Leo, you already know the answer. Nothing is free. Work harder. Believe in yourself, and people will believe in you too." So Leo rebuilt. He started baking from home again with the little he had left. He told his customers, "I won't let you down. I'll keep serving you, even if it's just a small amount for now." And something incredible happened. The town showed up for him. People donated ingredients. Neighbors gave money. Others came and helped repair the bakery with their own hands. Because when you work hard, when you refuse to quit, when you show the world that you are serious about your dream, people notice. They want to be part of something real. Months later, Leo reopened. Fresh paint, new decorations, new items on the menu. And on reopening day, the town's mayor stood in front of the crowd and said, "Leo, you are a true inspiration. You've shown every one of us that with determination, anything is possible." Leo looked out at the crowd, at his father's proud eyes, his mother's quiet smile, Sophie jumping up and down in the front row, and he said, "Nothing in life is free. Not success, not respect, not love. Everything must be earned with hard work, patience, and the decision to never, ever give up. Every challenge you face is not the end. It's just a step to something greater." And that is the story of Leo. But before you leave, I want to ask you one question. What is your bread? What is that one opportunity sitting right in front of you that you've been too scared, too tired, or too busy to reach for? Because just like Leo, you don't need perfect conditions. You don't need money, connections, or guarantees. You don't need the perfect moment. You just need to decide. Decide that your dream is worth fighting for. Decide that failure is not the end. Decide that no matter what burns down around you, you will rebuild. Because nothing worth having will ever come easy. But everything you truly fight for will always be worth it. Thank you for spending this time with the Leader's Voice today.
If this story moved something inside you, share it with one person who needs to hear it right now. Subscribe to The Leader's Voice and join us every single week for stories that remind you of who you are capable of becoming. And remember, nothing is free, but everything is possible. This is The Leader's Voice, and your story starts now.